This podcast is sponsored by Magic Rock Brewing. Currently, you can get free delivery on all orders over £40 and 10% of all online orders by using our code of TakesThatChance10.
Christopher Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance! Brady down the left and Moy stayed onside. Here's Mounier! 2-0 Huddersfield Town on the opening day of the Premier League. 1-2 wicket Tunga. Here's Moy, right-footed. 1-0 Huddersfield Town. Lindelof misses his header. De Quattro's in. Round De Gea. 2-0 Huddersfield Town. 2-0 Huddersfield Town. Here's Sanka to turn it into the pass. Yes! And Tommins scored. Tommins has scored one of the most important goals of Huddersfield Town's history. De Quattro's forward. De Quattro's got the better. Yes! And Laurent De Quattro scores. Laurent De Quattro scores.
Lovely stuff. So, spring has sprung, ladies and gentlemen, but will Town spring a surprise against Bournemouth? Welcome to the warm-up, episode 28. Joining me, your host, Brady Frost, to preview Huddersfield's match against the Cherries, is a man who's going to take a second bite at the cherry in his second appearance on this podcast. It's Mr. Tom Bradshaw. How are you, Tom?
Hello, how are we doing? All good? Yeah, looking forward to this, as usual.
That was very professional, mate. That's not what you're saying off there. Anyway. Hoping to not make a melon of himself this week is Mr. James Whittaker, who's a regular on this podcast. You like the fruit pun there? How are you, James?
Yeah, not bad, thank you. I liked it. Melon cherries. I can get my words out. Yeah, so happy to be back, and like I say, just taking it one podcast at a time.
Oh, nice. Look at that. Very classic banter there. Didn't want to upset the apple cart, did you? Another one. I'll keep it going. Anyway, gents, so we are playing Bournemouth. As far as I'm aware, it's quite an early kickoff tomorrow. I was told it was 5:30 kickoff tomorrow. So just if you're listening to this, because that caught me off guard. But I'm not here to talk about the kickoff times. We're going to talk a little bit about the team. So I'll just set the scene as per usual. So Bournemouth is 6th in the league. They're in the playoffs now. They've got 68 points, and they're actually on a bit of a good run, surprisingly. So they've lost just one of their last 6 matches and have actually won the last 4. So a bit of a cause for concern, especially given how Town played at the weekend. However, they have only won 3 of their last 10 away matches, which were victories against Bristol, Blackburn and Stoke. So maybe not as sure a thing as we may think, but I'm sure Huddersfield will surprise us with that. Most of their goals have come in the last 15 minutes of the first half. So again, we'll come on to how we see the game going, but a bit of a concern because Town tend to kind of switch off towards the end of the first half. And 5 of their goals that they've scored this year was in the 5-0 defeat to Bournemouth earlier in the season. And we're going to talk about this game in a little bit more detail because as we were kind of chatting, it was probably one of the key matches of the season, really. Carlos made a lot of changes and we got thrashed, as unfortunately we've had to experience again recently against Norwich. So I'll come to you first, Tom. How did you think of that game? Because obviously it's become a bit of a key talking point really since. And just how do you feel Town have been recently?
Yeah, well, talking about that game, it was just, I think when you compare it to Norwich, there's a lot of similarities in it. I mean, it was just a bit of one of those, it was embarrassing really, wasn't it? I think I switched it off in the second half when the 4th went in because I couldn't handle the defending for that 4th goal. It just wound me up so much. And it's just, it's just seriously bad defending, I thought, throughout this. The 2nd and the 4th goal, I remember, were really bad. The 4th goal, it was Stanislas one who just ran literally from halfway line through all of our lot and slots it past Schofield. That was weird as well. Hammer started, didn't he? And then Schofield came on in the second half. So it was just one of those really weird games, a weird lineup. I just compare it a lot to the Norwich game, and I think he's going to do that again. We've had 3 really big hammerings this season, down at Brentford, Norwich, and then down at Bournemouth, which were all away. So maybe you hope they'll be a bit more pragmatic at home. We weren't too bad against Norwich at home. You could argue that was an unlucky defeat. There was just mistakes, and that seems to be the problem this season. It's a lot of silly mistakes. I think, especially that last game against Bournemouth, I'd say 3 of the 5 goals were from defensive, like, fragility than anything else. And I remember, was the second one, the Welsh lad, he scored a screamer. For
David
Bournemouth.
Brooks.
Yeah. So I just think it's just defensively where we seem to be struggling in these games. I hope it's a bit of a different story at home, though.
Yeah, here's hoping, Tom. I mean, James, I suppose there's a lot of similarities a lot of agreement with Tom there, I imagine, from yourself.
I think I'd say so. A lot of, like I said, a lot of defensive errors. One of the things I did actually go back and look at that team and sort of obviously go back and watch the highlights as well. And I think obviously our memory of it at the time was there was a lot of changes and it was very much going in too much with the young players. But I think we look back on it now and Edmonds, Green's in there, Rose in there, and really they've sort of established themselves as first teamers now. So I think I went back and I was a little bit surprised by how how much experience there was in the team, because my perception at the time was this is a very young side. But I think what stands out particularly, apart from the young players, is just the poor performances from players who were very experienced, like Pritchard, Diakabi. I think I know it's maybe a little bit, they've been used a little bit as a stick to beat with kind of thing. But and Toffolo as well, one of the poorer performances in a Town shirt. So I mean it's a funny one with Bournemouth, isn't it? Because I think looking back at some of the results over the years as well, there's always seems to be loads of goals against Bournemouth. I remember I was looking at that season. I think it was 2014. I think we beat them 5-1. James Vaughan scored a hat-trick, and then the following year we lost 4-1 on the first game of the season under Mark Robbins. And I remember me and my dad looked at each other like, I think this could be quite a long season. And Callum Wilson scored 2 goals that day. So it's a funny one with Bournemouth. I think there'll always be goals in it, and it was a team that definitely felt like it had a bit of a B team flavour to it, and it definitely didn't work on that day. But I think that some of the younger players have done well to sort of pick themselves back up and establish themselves from them, which unfortunately some of the more experienced players haven't really.
And just touching on, because I also did my research, mate, and had a look at the lineup. I mean, you're right. There's quite a few players who are actually like first teamers now, but the one that stuck out to me was Diakabi, Danny Ward, and Jaden Brown as your front 3. I mean, that's not, despite what you think of them players, and obviously Danny Ward has his injury issues, but that's not a first choice attacking lineup. So, bit of an interesting one, really. I suppose it's a question. I'll come back to you, Tom, but. How do you feel about Carlos kind of making all these changes, and from a fan's perspective, I suppose you can kind of see it as him not prioritising it. And if you wanted to be even a bit more blunt, you could say maybe he's chucking in the towel already with the lineup. But what do you kind of think? Because obviously Norwich is a bit more fresher in the mind with that.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? I mean, because to be honest, he's not got that much to choose from because of injuries. But you can tell, like with the Norwich one, you could tell he's picked a team that maybe he's experimenting with or doesn't really care, like think they're going to do as much as they can. Because I think as fans, and I mean just watching the games anyway, you can tell when he's playing his strongest team that he's got available. And I just think Norwich was prime example of that. But I also think, at the end of the day, it's 11v11 and you can't play like they did against Norwich. I just don't understand how you can play that bad. Norwich were good, very good, but just again, like what happened when we last played Bournemouth, from a defensive point of view, some of it was it's just simple stuff like closing your men down. It's like there's no communication about who's going to do what or who's supposed to be taking that man. There's a lot of things that you can just see. There's no communication there, and it just worries me that you've got two really, at the moment, you're playing two very experienced centre backs most of the time. Stearman, Keogh, and Sar's not a junior, is he? Do you know what I mean? He's been around, so that's what worries me. Defense, it's weird defensively. I always thought the thing that we lacked was this attacking threat at the start of the season, and it's completely flipped on its head now this season. And I think one main thing you've got to build from the back. The first thing you've got to do is start by making sure the other team don't score more than anything. And at the moment, we're struggling with that.
No, definitely. I suppose we'll come on to, because, James, I mean, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add just before we move on about the kind of changes. Because, I mean, obviously, it looked like it was to prioritise the Rotherham game. I know we're not a review show here, but potentially you could argue it backfired a bit.
Yeah, I think that in terms of the changes in both games, really, like you say, it does seem like he's very much sort of choosing the games in which he's going to target Carlos, that is, in terms of trying to get points from. And I think that, the games where he makes the changes, you can tell. And I wouldn't, it's very likely that does have a psychological impact on players, and I think that in terms of just thinking about you as imagining yourself as a young player, I didn't exactly play football at the highest standard, but if I was, if you're coming into the team, you want some experienced first team players around you, and just putting you in with a load of other guys who are making their sort of debuts or have only had, less than 10 games under the belts, I think makes it difficult. I think that Jayden Brown, when he came in last season, he had a really good spell in the team when his first spell when he came in at left back, and because he had Schindler there and a more experienced defence really to bring him through it. And I think that obviously you're going to struggle if you're making vast changes, bringing in young players all at the same time, or players who've, let's face it, underperformed over a series of years, and putting them in with, it kind of, you go into the game low on confidence and with, already conceding that sort of mental edge. And I know it's it's a bit of a Cowley line, and me and Brady kind of joke about it, but it is fine margins in elite sport. And if you are going to, if you are going to make vast changes like that, then it does cause a problem. And after the Bournemouth game, Corberan then played the same team consecutively for 12 games. So I think obviously it had a big impact on him. And, arguably that's led to the injury crisis, in the new year as well. So, yeah, I think just dropping in a couple of younger players would have been more fruitful, really, to keep the whole squad rested and to give them a chance rather than just sort of wholesale changes and then just sticking to the same team when that doesn't work. For me, anyway. But that's what I'd say.
No, lovely stuff. And for anyone listening, when James is talking about Cowley, he does do a good Danny Cowley impression, actually. But you might have to hear that in if we ever do paid content.
Oh, come on, James, whack it
I'll
out.
settle my cameo to the
yeah. Well, the fee. We'll tell you about the fees later on. But we'll get back to Bournemouth a little bit, lads. So obviously, we always pick a key player from the other team. I was intrigued to see who you've picked for this episode, so I'll come to you again, Tom. Who have you backed?
Well, I hope he's still there, because I remember last time I was on, I think I picked Patrick Roberts, and he'd actually left Borough by the time I said it. But I've gone for Jefferson Lerma. He is still there, isn't it? But I just think whenever I've watched them, I mean, the handful of times I watched them this season and when they're in the Premier League, he seemed to do the boring stuff, but also pop up with a goal or two. And I just think if he's having a good game in the middle, he seems to be one of those people who kind of pulls the strings and just gets there their attacking flows going. So I think if you keep him quiet, if I'm assuming it'd be like Hogg or Vallejo, if they can disrupt that and stop him starting those movements, then you might have a bit of luck. But for me, I really like him as a player because he's got a bit of fight in him as well, but also he seems quite skillful. So, and didn't he bite a Sheffield Wednesday player a few months ago or something as well? So
yeah, I think he did. And like, you know, a person we love on this pod a lot, Jonathan Hogg, he loves a yellow card. I think he got the most, like nearly the most yellow cards in one season. Yeah, I think that's a good shout, mate. And James, what about yourself? Obviously, Bournemouth, you know, a much better squad than Huddersfield. But so who have you kind of picked out to be a key man?
So I've gone for Arnaut Danjuma. Now, I'm not saying I've watched loads of Bournemouth or of loads of this player, but just looking at the stats and his background, and it's just pretty impressive, really. So he's a full Netherlands international, played in the Champions League with Club Brugge, scored against Atletico Madrid. He's got 13 goals and 6 assists this season, which is not bad for someone who's nominally a winger. And he's in a rich vein of form at the moment. He scored 5 in his last 5. His XG is only 6 as well, which means that he's scoring a lot of goals and essentially from not a lot. So he's kind of making his own chances and scoring from opportunities that he's unlikely to do so, really. So I think that's a sign of a dangerous player. And he's sort of playing on the left of 4-2-3-1. So I think that he would definitely be someone that I think that Town will be aware of and be looking to hopefully try and prevent him from causing any havoc, really.
No, definitely. We'll come on to team selection, but especially with Pippa playing left back, it's normally a makeshift right back, so could get a lot of joy. I think that's a good shout, mate. I've actually gone for a player we all know and used to love. Didn't leave on best terms. Phil Billing. He's actually been playing a bit further forward recently. Obviously, he was a bit more defensive with Town. He's seen traditionally as a bit of a defensive midfielder, but he's been chipping in with goals recently. He's got 6 for the season, and he's scored a couple of decent goals. I think he scored a kind of a scissor kick the other week, and I just think, given how it all ended against Huddersfield and coming back to the John Smiths for the again, I fancy him to be up for it a little bit more. So yeah, Billing is our choice. I mean, I was gutted how it ended with Billing because I really liked him, to be honest. I don't know about you lads. No, hey.
Yeah, so did I, Brady. It's one of those, isn't it? I mean, no, it's like, the thing that wound me up about it was just, I mean, we all know that Jan Sievert probably wasn't capable of the job, but you still got to respect him, and some of the stuff that seemed to be coming out from Billing just isn't on really as a professional player. You still got to respect the club that you're playing for and who's in charge of that team.
No, definitely. I remember Dean, when he did the podcast, was clear that he had a word with Billing and his behaviour when he left for Bournemouth. So I think spot on, mate. We don't need to talk about Sievert. We all know how that went. But yeah. Anyway, we'll move on. Huddersfield key players. Who have you gone for? I'll come to you, James. Actually, I'll come back.
So I feel like I pick the same guy every time I'm on now. But I've gone for Johnny Hogg again. I think that I know he's not really been a great standout performer recently, but who has? And to be honest, I think as you've been saying about Billing, he's in good form at the moment in a sort of number 10 role, which we've not seen him do at Town so much. But I think that just knowing what Hoggy's like, he will have already sort of earmarked that one a little bit, particularly as a sort of former player. And I think if Hogg could put in his characteristic sort of early big tackle that's a bit too early for the ref to sort of brandish a yellow, then maybe you can sort of get away with one. And I know it's a bit nasty, but I just think that stuff like that sort of psychological edge, that sort of toughness, is something that is really important. And I think Billing was the sort of player, and I did really rate him. I think he was a good player. I think he will go on to be good player as well. But I think he's the type that probably wouldn't like something like that, and wouldn't like Hoggy getting in his face. And he knows Billing as well, having trained with him. Billing was at the club since he was 15, and Hogg's been here since Mark Robbins signed him. So they both know each other very well. So I think that he would be the man definitely that I would stick on Billing. I think that he can disrupt that sort of fluid attacking way of playing that Bournemouth like to play.
Yeah, no, definitely. He loves an early tackle. Obviously, the Harry Arter challenge springs to mind when you mentioned that straight away. Very lucky, I would
Definitely
say.
not a red card.
Got the ball. Got the ball. Yeah. Tom, what about you? Who have you picked for Town? Who do you think is going to be crucial in this match?
I've gone for Mr. Schofield in net. I really hope Ryan just has a really good game tomorrow, because just coming off the back of them absolutely destroying Coventry, basically. I mean, I think there's no denying that we're probably same level as Coventry, if not maybe a bit worse at the moment. So not particularly looking forward to it. So I think defence needs to be as strong as possible. And I think it stops with Ryan, and I think he's going to be facing a lot of it tomorrow, because the way things are, they seem to find space. So I think if Schofield has a good game, might be able to keep the score down, maybe get a cheeky 1-0 win.
I like it, mate. I actually picked Schofield as well. I'm sure you guys saw, but he was in the team of the weekend for the whole EFL, which I think he was very, he did have a good game, made some good saves, but I think Rotherham's finishing also helped him get that clean sheet. We're very lucky, but let's not talk about that, boys. I can see your faces. It's not one we want to dwell on. Return to the Mac. Former players still not got anyone to sing it. If you lads want to sing Return to the Mac now, that'd be great. I'm guessing again from your faces, that's a no. That's a strong no.
I thought Phil Senior sang it a few weeks ago. Get Matt to dig that out.
Yeah, Matt. I was going to say if you're listening, I hope you're listening because you'll be doing the editing for this, mate. But yeah, get that in, drop that in, and if you're listening back now, I'm sure he's dropped in something to humiliate me instead. Anyway, I'm gonna go to you for your Return to Matt pick, James, because you said you got an interesting one. So
yeah,
what is it?
I've taken a bit of a leaf out of Quinny's book with this one. In that
Nice.
I've been on Wikipedia. Looking up, as you found earlier, looking up the 2014 Town season, and I discovered a player that I've never heard of before in my life, Tamas Kadar. Now, I've looked into it. Apparently, he was a football manager wonder kid, signed by Kevin Keegan at Newcastle. Obviously, Lee Clark's given his former manager a call in January 2000. It's a bit early actually, January 2011. So he played 2 games for us, including a 3-2 win against Plymouth. And then he got an injury in his second game away to Walsall, and the loan was terminated. So he's one of these, a bit like, we've all heard of him, like Odegaard, and trying to think of others who've just, I guess Odegaard's kind of come good now, but there's lots of like wonder kids, isn't there, from that sort of go off and sort of what becomes of him a little bit. So apparently since then, he's rebuilt his career in Holland and Hungary after a series of serious injuries. So now he's actually earned 57 caps for Hungary, including at Euro 2012.
Wow.
He's played in Europe with Lech Poznan and Dynamo Kiev. He's now playing for Shandong Lueng. So presumably raking it in with the Chinese side, who played 3.6 million for him last summer. One thing I did find that was very convenient for my narrative is that he's a left-sided ball-playing centre-half, very technically gifted, but also physical presence. So I'm thinking Naby Sarr might have to make way for this Hungarian former wonder kid. So
when you said that, I thought you'd absolutely wasted your pick there, but I've been won round by your justification, mate. That was quite the journey.
Yeah. Well, I thought I'd go for someone different because I keep going, I keep picking fan favourites and not winning the poll. So I'm just throwing the poll now.
I like it, mate. I
picked a weak team to start the game.
I like it. Yeah, sorry, I need to compose myself. But Tom, help me out here. Who have you gone for?
Well, I'm just looking at this lad. I can't, like James, that is such a good pick because I cannot even, looking at him, I'm like, I've never seen that guy wearing a Town shirt ever before. That is insane. What a find. Well, I've probably gone for a boring one, but a true legend. I bet he's been said before, but I think obviously we need a left back, so I've gone for Ray Wilson. Prime Ray Wilson would be great. Probably one of the best left backs we've ever had. Probably the best left back we've ever had. 266 appearances. So yeah, Ray Wilson, I think for me, because I can't see Lewis O'Brien. I don't want to see Lewis O'Brien at left back again.
No, I can't believe you're insulting Jason Davidson like that, Tom. Anyway, I think that's a good pick, lads. I'm actually, as I was saying to you, I'm struggling just because I'm trying to remember who I've picked. I think I've picked all the good ones. So I'm going to nick one from Cameron when he came on the other week, and it was again, Brady's picking someone from the 2016-17 season. Elias Kachunga, I thought in that season he was really good, so I'm going to go for him. So we'll
Brady, did you become a Town fan that season?
Did, mate? No. My first game, just to clear, my first game was Phil Senior in net, and we lost 3-0. We were losing 3-0 to MK Dons at half time. So didn't seen some of the bad games. So I did think Jordan Rhodes, lads, to be fair. So I can go for that if you want. But anyway. We'll shift on. So we've got no fan insight this week, which is fair enough. So we'll come on to you're the coach.
Do you want me to do a fake one?
Yeah. Well, I'm to be honest, I don't really enjoy talking to teams who are high up in the league and then just being like, yeah, we're really good, you're really bad, aren't you?
There's not many fans you like talking to.
No, exactly. No. If any of them, I'm not sure they are, but it's always good chatting to them. But yeah, anyway, we'll move on. James, I've not been the same since your return to the Mac shout. I'm just all over the place.
I was going to say, I had a really weird thought where I was like, imagine if whoever else is on just goes, I was going to say that. Tomas Kadar, yeah. Play for us.
Anyway, so we're all the coach. So Matt always uses his go-to, and I can never get it right. We're going to don the chinos of Carlos. We're going to wear the hat of David Wagner, and I want to say the grimace of Mark Robbins. Or if not, Corberan's out. You lads are in. So you're lining up for Bournemouth. So, well, Tom, what's your lineup, and how do you get the game going?
So first off. So I think I'd probably wear a suit if I was manager, definitely.
Nice.
I think I'd go for that Peter Jackson look, first time round, the proper 90s suits with the top quality trench coat over the top.
Oh, lovely.
So I'd go for that look. So now to the boring stuff, I guess, like me picking a team. I'm no tactical genius, definitely not. I'm rubbish at Football Manager. I had one good spell with Rotherham one season, and that was about it.
You need your Terry Yorath with it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I'm kind of like, for this game, I'm playing for the draw and like trying to nick it on the counter. So I've gone for like this formation of this. It's like a 1-4-3-3, but it almost can turn into like a 1-6-3-1. So you got Schofield in net, and then I've gone Reg at right back, Stearman and Keogh in the middle, and Critchlow left back. Mm-hmm. And then Hogg, O'Brien and Vallejo in the middle, if Vallejo's all right to play. And then Pippa and Thomas on the flanks with Sanogo up top in the middle. So it was like thinking about there's two experienced centre-backs with us two like versatile youngsters who can play either centre-back or full-back, I think, because they're both quite, I think they're that can play in those positions. And then you basically have that blanket of Hogg, O'Brien, and Vallejo in front of those three. And then the front three, because I think Pippa can play on the wing or as defensively as well, because I think he's got plenty of skill. He's got a great ball into the box and stuff. And I think from what I've seen of Thomas, he can do that as well. His delivery looks all right. So I think the main thing for me would be using those wings and just seeing what we can get into the box. And then once we go 1-0 up after 5 minutes, just have shit house of 1-0 from getting everyone behind the ball for the rest of the game.
I like that. Would you have everyone standing on the goal line? You never see that.
Basically, that is basically what I'm thinking, Brady. We just need the points now. I don't care how they come.
I love that. You've maybe pioneered a new formation there, mate. The warm-up first. James, what about yourself?
Town fans would not like that, sorry.
Well, there's no one in the stadium, mate, and you're the boss, You're the one wearing the trench coat, not them.
No.
We'll come on to how we see the game going in a bit, but James, what about your lineup?
Well, I have gone kind of similar to what Tom said, really. I think I'd be looking at going defensive after that 7-0 against Norwich, and then that bit of a let-off, really, against Rotherham. So sort of maybe match them in the sort of 4-2-3-1. So, like I said, kind of similar, really, and just looking to pick up their 4 attacking players, who I think are all really dangerous in their own way, with Danjuma, Billin, Solanke, Stanislas. So 4-2-3-1. It's almost a bit Cowley-esque, dare I say, if I can mention him twice, without Cozzy getting annoyed. So so I think that Township looks kind of progressing through midfield. They've done quite well in terms of, probably the only thing that has been good over the last few weeks or so has been O'Brien's performances, just progressing it through that midfield. Instead of going down the flanks all the time, because I think we're a little bit found out with that. So I think I would put Schofield in goal, and then similar, like I say, Edmonds Green at right back, Richard Keogh and Sarr in the middle, and then I've actually gone for Jaden Brown at left back, just because I'm kind of sick of, I just can't deal with Lewis O'Brien there, and I'm just sick of square pegs in round holes. I think just he's a left back. We've got none that are fit. Just put him in at left back. It doesn't seem like Pippa's going to be fit. He went off injured, and Dehaney has not really been great. So I think that's my justification, really. And then I've got Hogg and Vallejo in front of the defence, or even potentially Scott High if Vallejo's not fit. And then I've got Holmes, O'Brien, and Rose are kind of attacking 3, and then probably Campbell up front. I guess I've tried to be quite solid, but also rewarding good performances and giving young players a chance again. I think that Carlos has arguably not really done enough of that. It's sort of like, even if you don't play well, you can get in the team next week. And in terms of building for the future as well, I mean, it's unlikely that Benza or Bakuna are going to be at the club. So I don't see the point in playing them every week, particularly if they're not playing well. So that's the kind of logic that I'm at as well, in terms of this game. But then again, it also allows us to rest a few players. So that's what I've gone with. Although, I'm not hugely confident in my choices, really. But yeah.
Well, we will see. Obviously, we'll talk about the game going and score prediction. But I've similar to you lads. I've actually stuck with 3-5-2. But I've swapped a couple of people around. So I've still got Schofield and net. I was one of those people who is pressuring. Thought Schofield probably needed to come out for a couple of games at one point, but I think he's shot stopping, and he has proved to himself that I've been very impressed that he's. Some of the things I think he lacked in his game he's improved. And I thought, particularly in that Rotherham game, he would come running out when needed, which we haven't normally seen. So I thought it was quite impressive. But my back 3 are Edmonds Green, Keogh and Sarr, because I always think about dropping Sarr just because we know what it can be like. But then he's actually been quite good. I think of that. I can't can't remember what goal it is, but where he cleared it. Oh, against Brentford, the one we conceded, but he actually clears it off the line, and then it's the poor defender from everyone else that leads to the goal. But and I actually think he has been playing okay, which is probably an unpopular opinion. And I think you're right, James and Tom. I've kept Edmonds Green because I think he's going to be here next season, so let's just play him. For my wing backs, I was going to pick Pippa, but again, I don't think he's fit. So I've gone for Aaron Rowe on the right because I think he's been better there. Not than Pippa, but that seems to be a good position for him. And I've got O'Brien, Hogg, and Vallejo in the three. Again, if Vallejo's fit, because I think Vallejo's a bit more defensive-minded than Bacuna or Holmes, and also I think Holmes could probably do with coming off the bench because I think he's getting a lot of flack for surprisingly being a midfielder and not doing well playing right wing back. But anyway, and then I've got Thomas because again, I think I like what he sees, and to be honest, as I'm sure you lads agree, I'm not feeling confident about this one, and maybe it's a chance to give players an opportunity who've impressed in bits here, like a full, a start and see how they do. So I think Thomas could be good. And then my up two, I'm going to rest Campbell and potentially bring him on later, but I've got Sonogo because James knows I like Sonogo. But also in Benza, I don't think he's played that well recently, but if we get any set pieces, his delivery, particularly, obviously we've seen how good he is at free kicks, but I saw somewhere that he's actually been responsible for, I think it was something like 8 of the 10 corners we've scored from this season when he's taking it in. So I don't think we'll get much joy, and maybe you do need him on the pitch. So that's my long-winded way of saying that's my 3-5-2. But anyway, Tom, how do you see this game going? And just to kind of round off the pod, what's your score prediction for this one?
Well, like I said, if Carlos listens to this and takes my amazing formation into consideration, then I think we'll win 1-0. But no, in all seriousness and in true Town pessimistic fashion, I've gone for a 3-1 Bournemouth win.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough, Matt. How do you see the game going then? Do you think it'll be us hanging on for dear life, or yeah?
I don't think it'll be like those away games, because I think weirdly, even though there's no fans in, well, there was in the Bournemouth one, but I don't think that makes a difference down there, to be honest. I think we'll do all right, but I just can't see us containing them. They're on a push to go up, aren't they? And I don't think some of our players realise how tight it is at the bottom. Do you know what I mean? I think a few of them are kind of thinking, "Oh, we'll be right. It'll all work out." And I think that's been the problem for a few, especially the last 2 seasons. I mean, we had to fight till the end last season, but we left it late, didn't we? We could have been playing home and dry very early on. I mean, since December, it's just been disastrous. So, yeah.
No, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. James, what about you? How do you see the game going?
Yeah, I agree. Really, I've gone for 2-1, but that's sort of my heart saying that. I think my head probably says something like 3-0, which is, I guess, where we're at the moment as Town fans. It's been a difficult time. It's just hard to see out of it, really. I think that they're obviously very good going forward, and we're dodgy at the back, and we're also a bit toothless going forward as well. So it's quite hard to be positive. I think that there will be some kind of response, because obviously there was some. I mean, it'd be hard for there not to be an improvement after Norwich, but I think there was some level of improvement. I think in patches we looked okay against Rotherham, but overall poor. So I think that we do need to see some kind of response, even if it's just a case of just trying to keep the scoreline down. I don't know if that's too negative, but it's just, yeah, the way I see it at the moment, and you just look at the players that they have, and yeah, it's just different gravy, isn't it?
Yeah, and I hate to be the add to the pessimism, but I've also gone for a 3-1 defeat, Tom. I actually think we're going to score first, weirdly, but I just don't think we've got enough to keep them out. Like you say, and they're going for the playoffs, and surprisingly, when Jonathan Woodgate's been appointed to the end of the season, I thought they'd really slip away. But I think that's no disrespect to Jonathan Woodgate, but I think that's probably more the players and their quality, coming through in the latter stages of the season, and their squad. Their squad is quite big. So yeah, I think it'll be 3-1. But again, this probably says the state of how we are at the moment. I actually see this being better than the Rotherham game in terms of performance, but I still think it'll end in defeat. But we'll see. I mean, we were all pessimistic about us home going to Swansea, and then we thrashed them, didn't we? So maybe we will see, lads. But yeah. Anyway, don't hold your breath.
It might be one of them where he looks to target Forest on Saturday rather than this game, because I think with that they're a bit inconsistent, and obviously they don't have as much to play for because they're probably all right. Whereas I think so a different prospect, really.
A win before Coventry would be so massive, though, because
yeah,
I can't be doing. I was saying this to Brady the other day when I was like, can't be doing with this every season. It coming to
I agree.
Targeting a game and thinking, right, we've got to win this one. We've got to win this one. Can we just get out of the way and forget about this season? And move on.
I agree.
I think we could have that debate long into that could be a 9-hour podcast. So anyway, we will move on. Let's see. We've all predicted a defeat, but as I said, will Town spring a surprise? 5:30 kickoff tomorrow on a Tuesday. Who knows? We'll see. But gentlemen, thanks for joining us, and thanks to all our listeners for tuning in. I tell you what, I don't normally do this, but if you listen, I'm going to do one of those awkward plugs. If you listen to this on a podcast app that lets you rate and review this, can you rate this? Give us 5 stars, because let's be honest, reviewing Town games or previewing Town games at the moment is hard work. So I think that would make it a little bit sweeter. So if you can, that would be very much appreciated. But thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you for the Forest preview later on.
Oh, what a night. Late in May in 2017, Schindler scored, it was a heaven dream. What a feeling, what a night. Oh, what a night. Wagner singing, we are Premier League. The greatest sight St. George's Square did see. What an evening, what a night. Oh, I got a funny feeling when he walks and a fence, and then the commentator yelled he takes that chance. Oh, what a night. Lost so safe and mesmerizing me. Low charge and flattened all Chelsea. Stamford Bridge, oh what a night. Whoa, I got a funny feeling when he walks and a fence, and then the commentator yelled he takes that chance.